What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pizza Bones, a production of the Gonna Eat That Crust podcast. I am Greg.
I'm Kate.
And we are proud members of the You Run Podcast Network,
where you can find all our shows and all the other members' great shows
at yourunpodcast.com. So go check those out. Tonight we are without Nate. The whole crew will be back together for Des, like we promised. We just added a couple episodes in between, and tonight we will be covering Mr. Richard Chase, the Sacramento Vampire, who was convicted of 6 counts of first-degree murder. His killing spree occurred over a 1-month period in late 1977 and early 1978 in Sacramento, California. He was a cannibal and participated in acts of vampirism. And I gotta say, this one is an extremely brutal case, and we're going to give a little bit of a warning before, so if you have a soft stomach, we will give a heads up when things are about to get a little dangerous. And Kate, take it away.
Yeah, I thought now is as good a time as any to give a bit of my background, which kind of feeds into this discussion and trigger warning. This one is definitely really rough. I didn't really know much about him prior to doing the research. And it just made me think about, as we go on this true crime journey, it may feel at times like I'm detached or a bit clinical about things, but it's probably more that I've gotten used to switching off the emotive response to things and looking at through a purely factual lens. So my field of anthropology it's a branch of paleontology, so I deal mainly with fossils. With archaeology, I've delved occasionally into the forensic archaeology and anthropology and looking at some pretty awful things through a historic lens, but also I used to work in law enforcement as a civilian analyst and dealt with some, murder investigations and things like that, and then doing some work with NGOs. So I've become quite good at, switching off and just looking at things as a purely factual thing. That said, I actually found this one quite challenging. I wanted to just kind of talk about, I think it might be a bit difficult for some people to listen to some of these things. So when we're getting to that part, it would be probably a good time for me to sort of say that maybe you want to skip forward a few minutes.
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit. A lot of grapefruit. So there's animal cruelty, pregnancy, sexual assault, post-mortem violations, and children, all going to be covered in this discussion. So we'll sort of, throughout the process, have a little warnings that some dicey things are coming up.
Yeah, in the few years I've been listening to and covering true crime, I gotta say this is probably the most intense case I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because there's a lot of insane cases out there.
For sure.
In brutal, graphic cases, and this one is just, this one's tough. So we're going to begin with Richard Chase's early childhood. So born Richard Trenton Chase, he was born on May 23rd, 1950 in Santa Clara County, California. His parents were Richard Edgar Chase Sr., who was a computer specialist, and Beatrice Chase, who was a school teacher. They divorced in 1972, and pretty much Richard had a normal childhood and did not suffer from any abuse, but it was known early on that he was kind of a weird kid from the get-go. He had the McDonald Triad, and for those of you who don't know what the McDonald Triad is, it's a theory linking 3 childhood behaviors. 1, animal cruelty, harming or killing animals. 2, fire setting, an obsession with setting fires. And 3, persistent bedwetting. Enuresis, I think that's how you pronounce it maybe, bedwetting after the age of 5. So Richard was obsessed with blood at a young age. He was killing cats in his neighborhood at an early age. One of his neighbor actually recalls after 20 years later that cats were disappearing in the neighborhood. And you gotta ask yourself, how many cats had to disappear in your neighborhood when you, remember that 20 years later, oh yeah, by the way, there was cats disappearing in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So in high school, he had friends. He went on dates, but Richard was impotent. And he became even more obsessed with blood. He took a health class, and the health teacher basically told him, blood helps the erection. So he was obsessed with getting more blood into his body. One day, he took his girlfriend's kitten and killed it and drank its blood in the backyard. He also shot a neighbor's dog and tried to catch the blood in Dixie cups. He held many bizarre fixed beliefs that were not grounded in reality, including he thought he had a shrinking heart and powdered blood. Chase was obsessed with the idea that his heart was shrinking and that Nazis or alien forces were attempting to turn his blood into powder using poison they planted beneath his soap dish. He had a need for blood. He was convinced that consuming the blood of animals and humans was necessary for his survival and to replenish his own blood supply, which he thought was insufficient. He referred to the practice as a temporary cure for his condition. He also thought he had a shifting skull. He believed the bones in his skull had split apart and were shifting around, which led him to shave his head to monitor their movement. Pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
He also thought he had stolen arteries. He told his doctors his pulmonary artery had been stolen. External control. He believed voices he heard were alien thoughts being put into his mind to control his actions. Richard Chase was a severe hypochondriac and a paranoid schizophrenic.
It's interesting. You can sort of see where he's gotten part information, like blood does go to an erection, but you can't drink blood to make it go there.
Yeah.
And he probably saw in a textbook or something, you know, when we're born, our skull isn't fused. We do have actually a division in the different suture lines that kind of fuse together as we get older. So there's kind of a basis, and he's just run with it and had no real explanation given to him or guidelines or, you know, no one to kind of say, no, that's not how it works. Here's how it works.
Needless to say, Richard was a weird one. He eventually had 2 female roommates, and they were extremely weirded out by him. This was also the time where he was smoking pot every day, dropping acid, doing speed, and dealing drugs. He would walk around the apartment naked. He would dance and wiggle on the floor. Like, he would just come out during parties naked and do this, like, weird dance on the floor, like naked.
The worm? I'm just picturing him doing the worm.
Yes, okay. He was doing the worm on the floor naked.
Well, as you do. It's got to be naked. I mean, if it's not naked, it's not the worm.
Who wants to play Twister?
Yeah. All right.
His female roommates were essentially hostages in a way because they were too scared to like attempt to move out or tell him to move out. Yeah. So they were just so freaked out, they eventually just abandoned the apartment and left Richard there to himself.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah. And also, Richard was obsessed with guns. That will come back to play.
Mm-hmm.
The poor grandmothers for serial killers. They always
get sent to their grandmothers.
Yeah.
What do you think the grandmothers are going to do? Jesus.
Yeah. So, in May 1973, Chase moved in with his grandmother after an arrest related to a gun incident at a party. During this period, he worked briefly as a bus driver for children with disabilities. But he was fired for negligence. He spent most of his time in bed during the day, roamed the house at night, and insisted on cooking his own meals because he refused his grandmother's cooking. She often overheard him in his room asking himself, "Richard, are you a good boy?" and answering, "Yes, you are a good boy." He also stood on his head, believing it would improve blood circulation to his brain.
He needs a few biology classes, I think, this one.
But yeah, let's talk about him driving a bus for children with disabilities. Like, who would trust him to drive anything? Like, it sounds like he couldn't even drive a car. Well, they got him driving a bus for children with disabilities.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the working with children check didn't exist back then, where you have to get the police check done to basically go anywhere near a school even, which is great, you know. Anything to do with kids, you need to have that check done. But I think some people do fall through the cracks still. But yeah, back then it was just a
free for all.
Yeah, off you go. Drive the kids around, you know. And did you say they were disabled kids?
Yes.
So extra vulnerable, not able to advocate for themselves really in any way sometimes. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't like trying to convince them to give them their blood, you know?
Well, yeah, that is actually... It's surprising that nothing seems... Well, maybe things did occur and we didn't hear about it, but I think you probably would have, but yeah.
Well, see, he also suffered from Renfield's. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I'll get into that later, yeah. But yeah, so he suffered from Renfield's, and step 3 is humans, so I'm surprised. Maybe he wasn't there yet, because eventually he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and his parents thought it would be a good idea to get him his own apartment.
Yeah, unsupervised schizophrenic who's using psychedelic drugs.
Yep.
Totally great idea. Great parents of the year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, acid and schizophrenia are not a good combination.
No, they're not.
When he was living in his own apartment, he would ride his bike back and forth to the rabbit farm, where he would buy a rabbit, go home, butcher it, and drink its blood. Sometimes he would just throw it in a blender and drink it all, like hair and all.
Mm.
I'm assuming bones and everything. That's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Rabbit bones would be pretty fine, I think. They probably would go in a blender. Sorry, that's really gross.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, this is a gross case.
Yeah, that's probably the least gross thing, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, buckle up, people.
Yeah.
So his dad stopped by one day to find Richard pale as snow, sitting on his couch in his shorts, and he was saying how he had food poisoning. When he went to the doctors, it was found he had blood poisoning. He actually injected rabbit blood because he thought one of the rabbits that he ate had battery acid in its blood. So he injected clean rabbit blood to counteract the battery acid blood. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, yeah.
After the rabbit battery acid incident, Richard was finally committed to a mental institution. And 2 days later, he escaped by running out the front door. He was very skinny and very fast. He was a slippery motherfucker, this guy.
Yeah.
When they caught him, they brought him to another facility where he earned the nickname Dracula because all he talked about was blood and killing animals. In his room, he would catch birds, rip their heads off, and drink their blood. And when he was caught, covered in blood and feathers, he would say he cut himself shaving.
It's staggering that people just accepted all these little...
Yeah.
I know when I shave my legs or something, if I cut myself, feathers appear. Like, what?
Yeah, you're like covered in blood, like, I just cut myself shaving.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of blind eye turning, I think, in this situation.
Yes. So he suffered from Renfield syndrome, which is someone obsessed with covering themselves or getting power or sexual pleasure from blood. And there's 3 stages of Renfield's. So the first stage is drinking your own blood. The second stage is drinking blood from animals. And of course, you guessed it, the third stage is drinking blood from other humans. He was released on September 26, 1976, which was against the strong disapproval of the entire staff that housed Richard, except for his doctor, who said he developed good socialization and has a realistic view on his problems. Like, what?
These fucking doctors, in every case we've talked about, there's been some doctor or multiple doctors who just drop the ball, like, massively.
Yeah, it's insane. The court offered them a conservatorship, but they let it expire. He would live with his mom until she got sick or annoyed with him, and they would send him back to his apartment they rented for him. She also weaned him off his medication because she said he didn't need it and it made him dazed like a zombie.
I think that's what we're going for, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of what we want.
Schizophrenia medication blocks the flow of dopamine to the brain, which is what causes schizophrenia. On August 3rd, 1977, tribal police were called after a car was abandoned by Pyramid Lake River Reservation in Nevada. Inside the car, they found a loaded .30-30 rifle and a .22 rifle, both stained with blood, a pile of clothes with blood all over them, and a cooler with a liver inside sitting in fresh blood. Cops later spotted him in his underwear, covered in blood, and he ran. They eventually caught him. He was caught by a cop on an ATV. He had blood everywhere, even in his ears. When the cops asked where the blood came from, he replied that it's seeping from him. They brought him in and questioned him and discovered that the liver and blood was from a cow and he was let go. I mean, if you find somebody covered in blood in their underwear, saying the blood's seeping out of them, you probably shouldn't just let him go. And I'm sure they didn't do enough research to find out that he was, arrested before or institutionalized.
Yeah, I mean, the source of the blood shouldn't really be a reason to let him go. Like, oh, it was cow's blood. That's incredibly disturbing behavior and animal cruelty, which I think there would have been animal cruelty laws back then. So,
yeah, where was this cow? Whose cow was this?
Yeah.
So on December 27, 1977, Richard would attempt to murder for the first time. He was unsuccessful. Dorothy Polanski was doing her dishes when she heard a tight pop and felt some heat. A bullet went through glass and went right through her tight hair bun and lodged itself in the kitchen cupboard. That bullet would match the gun that Richard would use the very next day. And this all stemmed from him not being allowed to come home for Christmas. On December 20th, he shot the family cat in front of his mother and covered himself in the blood. And his mother said to the father that he shot the cat, but she didn't say he covered himself in blood as well, too. She's like, Richard shot the cat. Pretty
important information to include, I think. So she didn't report that. They didn't report that incident, did they, the parents, to the police or anything?
No, they did not.
Is this when the conservatorship ended? Had it already ended? And
Yes,
they
yeah,
okay.
they let it go. Yep.
Okay, right. Oh, jeez.
And keep in mind, he's not on his schizophrenia meds anymore. She weaned him off them.
The mother's completely enabled him and the father as well, but
Yeah,
they got a lot to answer for.
when your son's sick, and let's give him his own apartment. Like he clearly needed to be in a hospital or a mental institution,
Yeah, definitely.
and him being severely dazed is better than what he would eventually do. Obviously,
Hmm.
so after this whole cat incident, the family was like, "You can't come around for Christmas." So he was pretty pissed off. He actually cut his hair. He tried to dress and act normal. He said he was looking for a job, but they still said he couldn't come home for Christmas. So on December 28th, not far from Richard's apartment, he spotted 51-year-old Ambrose Griffin unloading groceries from the trunk of his car. His wife would later report that she heard two loud pops and turned around to see Ambrose slumped down on the side of his car. The first bullet missed, but the second one went right through his chest, and it was so random the cops had no leads at all.
Yeah. I can't imagine just going about your business like that and the lack of warning, lack of motive. You just, doing your thing and you get shot.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's so random. It's like scary, like I don't know if you heard of the DC sniper.
Was that not that long, like about a decade? Was it what people were like ducking down to put petrol in their car and stuff like that?
There was two people. One was driving the car, and there was a person in the trunk shooting out of a trunk of a car, and they were
Hmm.
shooting random people, like just completely random people. It was very scary.
I do remember seeing that on the news because I specifically remember footage of people that were putting petrol in their car and they were like had the pump in the car and they were just ducking down to not be a target. That's
Yeah.
terrifying. They caught them obviously eventually, did they?
Yes, they did catch them eventually. Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was two people, and I'm pretty sure one of them was like a young guy. Like I think it was like a maybe not necessarily a teenager, but maybe 18 to
Hmm.
20-year-old or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, very scary, very random. This guy's unhinged. Clearly, he's just driving by, and he's fucking Richard's pulling drive-bys. I mean,
Hmm.
shooting like a guy right down the street from his house.
And obviously the intention there was purely to kill. He wasn't planning on doing anything else at the time. I guess he just wanted to see what it felt like to kill someone or
Yeah, because I mean, he
get
shot
going.
at he shot at the girl doing the dishes and like just missed her barely. Like it went through
The
her
lucky
hair
bun,
bun.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Mm.
was a lucky
And
bun.
the luck involved in that, because if she had just been leaning a certain way or standing up a bit straighter or a few centimeters taller, it would have
Yeah,
been a very different outcome for her. So,
I want to say on the Richard Ramirez case, he shot at somebody and they like put their hand up and like hit their watch or it hit their keys. That's right. The
oh,
bullet hit their keys and like saved their life. I
wow.
mean, when that shit happens, it's like wow, it's so close. It's so insane.
Yeah, just a second can make a huge difference, or a tiny little thing like that. Okay, so with his parents not continuing the conservatorship, not renewing it and leaving him to fend for himself, it's unsurprising that the situation worsened. And this is the first, so I'm covering the last two incidents. He didn't kill that many people, did he, really? It was quite brief.
Yeah, it was like a one
Yeah,
month spree.
yeah. But he really did a lot in that month.
Yep.
So in January 1978, 2 months before yours truly was born, he asked a woman for a cigarette and then restrained her until she gave him the packet. 2 weeks later, he attempted to enter the home of another woman, but the doors were locked, and he took locked doors as a sign that he wasn't welcome, which I found interesting, which feeds into the vampire thing, I guess.
Yep. Very
I
much
thought
so.
it was that you had to be invited, not that a locked door. But
Yeah.
obviously, people
He's
have
bending the rules a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think his understanding of stuff is not very great at the best of times, but yeah, he obviously made up his own rules. Yeah, so he took the locked doors, Sonny wasn't welcome. Unlocked doors, conversely, he thought were an invitation to come inside. Around this time, he ran into an old school acquaintance named Nancy Holden, but she refused to give him a lift. Can't imagine why.
Yeah.
And smart girl for not giving him a lift.
Yeah.
Okay, so he shortly after, entered the home of a young family and was caught. The father caught him and assaulted him, but he did escape. not before he had defecated on the bed of the son and stolen some valuable items. So really disturbing stuff. Anyone who's had their home broken into, I know it happened to my dad and me and my sister when I was little, and it's a very, it's a very confronting and horrible feeling, especially when the people do strange things in your home. So that would be really, I mean, I would move if that happened to my family.
Yeah, I totally remember that. That's insane.
Yeah.
What is this, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a friend of mine's family got broken into as well. I remember the people made themselves toast and a snack and they just left all the stuff out, and it's really strange.
That is crazy. That's like BTK. BTK would like go in there and eat cereal because he's a serial killer.
Oh, God.
Fucking nerd.
Make yourselves at home, have a snack.
Yeah.
So he continued attempting to enter homes, eventually came to the house of David and Teresa Wallen. Teresa was 3 months pregnant, and this was on January 21st, so only a couple of days later. So this is delving into now the first of the particularly graphic murders, so skip ahead a little bit or buckle up, your choice. Okay, so he shot her 3 times. She had 1 defensive wound in her hand and 2 in her head. I guess the only saving grace here is that he did shoot his victims point blank generally, and most of the completely awful things that he did to them were post-mortem, which is very disturbing, but
yes,
they did not experience these things or have any knowledge of them.
Yeah.
Still awful. So he raped Teresa post-mortem whilst also stabbing her multiple times. He cut her body open and removed several organs, which, some of the organs are pretty hard to get to. So he's really done a lot of damage to her body. He took the spleen, intestines, and both kidneys. Her kidneys were put back into her body. I had a bit of a theory about this. Did you read anything that went into why the kidneys were put back?
I did not.
So with the kidneys, I was thinking about why would he take the time, because the kidneys are quite difficult to get to, I think. They're really kind of embedded. And I was sort of thinking, why would he take the time to put them back? And then I think possibly because he liked to either consume the organs or try and get blood from them. The kidneys are a filter organ, and they probably would be quite, well, I mean, all the organs would be horrible, but to him, they weren't. But I think the kidneys, I'm just thinking that might be why he did that.
Yeah, that's good.
I could be completely way off, but I just was sort of like, I wonder why he did that. So he used a bucket to collect blood, which he took to the bathroom and bathed in, sliced off one of her nipples and continued to drink blood using an empty yogurt container as a cup. She'd been taking the garbage out, I think, when he approached her and had dropped some rubbish.
Now, is that wrong that I'm disgusted that he drank it out of a used yogurt
Do you know what?
cup?
It's really not, because I actually find yogurt to be an abomination. I think yogurt's one of the most disgusting things on the planet to eat.
Whoa. I love yogurt. I eat yogurt every day. Actually, I eat Noosa yogurt, which is Australian yogurt.
Right. Oh, I remember you telling me about the... See,
I love Noosa.
You love it so much that I'm already aware of it.
I would never drink blood out of a Noosa cup, though, I promise.
No, I mean, yogurt's very acidic. I'm vegan anyway, so I don't eat dairy yogurt.
Gotcha.
I just don't. I've never liked it. There is a soy yogurt that I don't mind, and I have it with pomegranate seeds, which I don't think I will now. That's turned me right off that.
You're drinking blood. It's absolutely disgusting, but I'm just more grossed out that he's drinking it out of a used yogurt cup for some reason.
No, because yogurt mixed with blood, it's like, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucked up. Yeah, so he went to the yard and found dog feces and then put the dog feces into the mouth and throat of Teresa.
Yeah.
So he did some really heinous, evil things to her body. I feel very, very sad for her family who would have, I mean, I hope they were spared from that information, but I doubt they were, because her husband would have, I didn't actually look at, I'm sure her husband would have found her.
I don't know if this is the time, but I know he wore gloves during one of these last few times.
I do actually, yeah, because that does feed into his judicial process. He's definitely schizophrenic, and he's also really evil. I think that's such a perfect storm of two very severe ends of that spectrum. He's definitely a very unwell person, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's incredibly mentally ill, but he also, I think, got some joy out of this, got some enjoyment, and knew exactly what he was doing, and he's really evil. So
people can go off the deep end when they do acid, and especially if they're schizophrenic and they do like mind-altering drugs. A normal person could take acid and have like a completely mind-bending experience and walk away and be completely normal.
Yeah.
Normal. But somebody who's schizophrenic and taking those kind of drugs or smoking pot every day and just doing a lot of drugs, doing a lot of speed, that can't help.
No, and I mean, I've personally never done those, but I've known people who have been affected negatively for life from one experience with it.
Yep.
I mean, it's never been something I've been interested in, and no judgment to people who do experiment with them, but yeah, it's rolling the dice big time with that stuff because you just don't know until you take it. And once you've taken it, you can't really not take it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this is an important conversation because, the fact that, yes, he is incredibly ill, but also evil, we need to highlight what can happen when mental health issues are left unchecked or written off by people. This is an extreme case, obviously, but we all have a responsibility when someone around us is displaying behaviour to do what we can to help them. And I think, sometimes that's easier said than done. It really depends on the mental health services available in your area. Some people don't want to call the police on people they love because they're concerned that could go the wrong way. It's a really difficult situation. Every single situation is individual and different. But to write people off and dealing with people who have mental health issues can be really frustrating and it absorbs your entire existence. But you can't just write them off and go, oh, well, figure it out, because what you're doing is unleashing them onto the world. And this is the sort of thing that can happen.
Yeah, and we're just starting to take more notice with mental health nowadays, and this is the 70s, so I can't imagine that mental health was a big thing back then,
Yeah, I think my dad was a psychiatric nurse for most of his nursing career, so decades he did psychiatric nursing, and he started off in emergency room nursing, which is why I've had to promise him, and I still kept the promise I'll never get on a motorcycle. He's like, I don't ever want you to get on. I'm like, okay, and to this day I've kept that promise to him. And I know that plenty of people drive them safe. It was just my dad's thing, and I made that promise. But yeah, he was a psychiatric nurse for a really long time. And that was, already in the early 80s, he was doing that. So
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
With the motorcycle thing. I mean, you could be driving your car and somebody else could cut you off and get in an accident, and you still could be fucked when you're driving your car. If you're on a motorcycle, like one just falling off, barely going fast at all, you can get brain damage. You can, especially if you're not wearing a helmet.
If my dad was alive today, he would be horrified. We've got a lot of those electric motors, the electric scooters that kids ride around. And I live on a bit of a hill, and the amount of times, coming out of my house, there's I've got a courtyard thing, and then there's this gate that I come out, and there's not real visibility. They just tear down the footpath. I've nearly been taken out several times, and I see these kids driving around, riding around on these things. They're going probably 50, 60 Ks an hour. I don't know what that is in miles, but it's fast. And they've got a singlet, like a tank top.
Yeah.
And shorts. And you just think, no, I can see why my dad made me promise that, because he saw the aftermath come into the emergency room. But, he only did that for, I think, about a decade, and then everything else was psychiatric nursing. So it was around, but it wasn't now we've got specific youth services. We've got a lot more things available. And I'm talking from an Australian perspective. Obviously, I know the mental health facilities in the US are not as maybe robust.
We're top notch here. We're America. We're number one, okay? We're number one at everything.
And it makes me sad, because really a lot of the time all it takes is some medication or some cognitive therapy or a combination of both, but it's something that needs to be focused on more, because this sort of thing can happen. Yep. And and it's avoidable. This was all avoidable. That's what really is so sad about this.
Yep.
So 2 days later, we'll head into the next murders. This is a mass murder, everyone. This is they're all awful. This one's particularly awful.
Yeah. And
so 2 days later, I've actually, when I researched this one, I got a couple of conflicting sources about when Evelyn's friend Dan, that one person thought he turned up after and one that he was there. So I'm just going to go with one, and it could be slightly different as far as Dan the friend. But so 2 days later, on January 23rd, Richard purchased 2 puppies from the neighbour, killed and drank their blood, and then left the bodies in the neighbour's yard. Another incident that really should have been, hey, let's call the police on this guy.
who's selling this guy puppies anyway? Like you
Yeah, I
see this
mean,
guy, he's wearing like an orange jacket. It looks like he's like there's blood stains all over his jacket.
he's got
He
to have some
looks,
blood on him.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this dude's like a walking fucking bloodsicle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably another situation where back then people just sold backyard. Now it's a bit more, people sort of say don't give free to good home, or, don't sell pets to people you don't know.
It's harder to get a dog than it is to like have a child.
Yeah.
Like you have to jump through
Hmm.
so many hoops,
Yeah.
as you should.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've adopted cats from the RSPCA here, which is like the animal shelter, and they do some really thorough checks, and
Yeah.
yeah. So here we go. On the 27th of January, Richard entered the home of Evelyn Miroth. He was 38 years old at the time, and she was babysitting her 22-month-old nephew, David. Her 6-year-old son, Jason, was also there, as well as her friend, Dan Meredith. Now, according to the research that I did, Evelyn was taking a bath while Dan watched the kids,
Yep.
which I'm not sure if they obviously were pretty good friends. And apparently her son Jason had been meant to go across the road to another family to go do some activity. I'm not sure what the activity was, but
The other family, I think they were going skiing or sledding.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was some sort of snow. Yeah, so Jason was due to kind of leave. So Evelyn was in the bath, Dan watched the kids. Richard Chase entered the home and Dan approached him, obviously, probably going, "Who are you? What's going on?" He was shot point blank in the head. Jason, the little boy, he was 6, he then ran to his mother's room and he was also shot in the head by Richard. David, the 22-month-old, had also been shot by Chase on the way to follow Jason to his mother, or to his aunt. So he's killed 3 people at this point. Chase then entered the bathroom, shot Evelyn, and dragged her to the bed. So this is where it gets pretty bad. So he sodomized her whilst drinking the blood from a series of slices that he'd made in the back of her neck. Semen from multiple ejaculations was found in Evelyn's rectum. And he then stabbed Evelyn repeatedly in her anus to the extent that the knife penetrated her uterus, and multiple stabs on various points on her body caused blood to pool in her abdomen. He then sliced her abdomen open and drained the blood into a bucket. He also tried to remove an eye. I'm not sure that he succeeded. Richard retrieved David's corpse, the 22-month-old, and took him into the bathroom where he cracked his skull and then consumed some of David's brain matter. The 6-year-old girl from across the road, who was due to have a play date with Jason, knocked on the door to check on Jason's progress in coming over because he hadn't appeared for the play date. Those parents, the extent of the oh shit moment they would have had when they realized their child was that far from, I mean,
that close.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Because he didn't answer that. She knocked on the door and he didn't answer the door.
Yeah, so I think she saw some movement inside, but didn't. She went back home. Thankfully, he didn't open the door because that would have been another victim.
Yep.
She did startle him though, so he fled in Dan's car, the friend of Evelyn, and he took David's body with him. 22-month-olds, not very big. They're going to be pretty easy to transport. So this little girl alerted the neighbour, who then entered the house and found a very bad scene.
Yeah,
Police
it's a brutal
attended.
scene to watch into.
Oh, yeah. Trying to piece together what had happened there would have been really rough. So police attended and found that Chase had left hand and shoe prints in Evelyn's blood. Chase had taken David's body with him and he took him home, severed his head and removed his penis, which he used as a straw to remove blood out of the body. He then consumed several organs and made smoothies out of others, and he disposed of the body of David at a nearby church. So a janitor from the church found a box containing David's remains and Dan's car keys, which obviously the police were made aware of that as well. So unsurprisingly, the FBI were assigned after the Wallen murder and compiled a fairly accurate profile. Now, the police in this case did a great job.
Yep.
Really, because often we have that, we have a situation where we think, what the fuck were the police doing? But in this case, I have to really applaud.
Often it's the police's, not necessarily their fault, but they're lazy. They don't contact other police, or it's just usually that's the case. But yeah, these guys were were pros.
Yeah, definitely. So so they compiled a really accurate profile of the suspected killer. Nancy Holden, the friend who he had run into and asked for a lift, and she went, no, not.
Yep.
She contacted police 5 days after the mass murder and stated that she believed that Chase could be the killer. So things were starting to come together. Police attended his apartment, but he refused to speak with them. So they waited nearby. And unsurprisingly, he came out with evidence galore in his hands and being a blood-stained box. And they arrested him, basically. He had blood on him, and the box contained a blood-soaked murder weapon, a .22 caliber pistol. Don't know much about knives. Not knives, guns, sorry. But do you say .22 or just 22 caliber?
I think 22.
Yeah.
I think it was known that, too, that the cops were like trying to get in, and he said, he wouldn't answer. And they were like, all right, we're leaving now. And they just like went out and like hid in the bushes or like waited for him to come out. And he just like came out like an idiot.
Because he's a dope.
Yeah.
It also contained Dan Meredith's wallet. So everything needed to link him to these murders.
Here it is.
Stupid fool. So Chase's apartment surfaces and eating utensils were all soaked in blood, including the blender used to make his smoothies. Animal parts wrapped in foil and David's brains in a Tupperware container. Pieces of David's body in saran wrap. Now, that's the plastic wrap, is it? Saran wrap? Is that what that is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because here we call it Glad wrap, and I was like, I'm assuming that's what that is. Interesting thing to focus on, but I was curious. So
it's saran wrap or aluminum foil.
Yeah, right. And we say aluminium too. We said that different, not aluminum.
Oh, nice. Aluminum, yeah.
Yeah. Cultural differences.
The only laughs we'll have. Sorry, guys.
I need some. I'm sorry, I just laughed really loud into the microphone.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so also Evelyn and Teresa's organ pieces were found, and on the kitchen table he had diagrams of human biology, which again feeds into the intent, and that would look like some planning occurred.
Yep.
In 1979, he had a trial of 6 counts of murder. The defense, unsurprisingly, tried to reduce to second-degree murder on account of his mental illness and apparent lack of planning in his crimes. There was some planning. The head prosecutor was Ronald Tochterman, I think is the print. I don't know how. He was determined to prove that Chase knew the extent of what he was doing. He researched the legend of Dracula, blood-related crimes and rituals in other cultures, some believing it strengthens them or heals them. Whilst a belief, not an excuse to murder, there are cultures that do perform cannibalism. It's all the cannibalism we see in movies where explorers are captured, and that's generally not what happens. It's more ritualistic after people die, for example. It's actually really interesting, but so he researched all these things, and the case was moved 120 miles away to Santa Clara County. I think I might have put the wrong word in there. Anyway, multiple psychiatrists examined Chase, and he expressed fear that his victims may come back from the dead to seek retribution.
I wish they would.
Right? Yeah. One psychiatrist found him to have an antisocial personality and not be schizophrenic. I feel like he might have been both, personally, but that's just me.
You can be both.
Yeah, 2 things can be true.
Yes.
And that his thought process had not been disrupted. He was aware of what he'd done and that it was wrong, which I do agree with. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. I think his motive for doing it is where the mental health stuff fed in, and I think that he truly believed that, the Nazis were putting powder in his soap dish or something, but I think that he also knew that what he was doing was not right.
Yes.
So, Chase testified and tried to claim he didn't know why he did it, that his problems stemmed from inability to have sex with girls as a teenager, and that he was sorry for the killings. Well, that's a story we've heard before, isn't it? Let's blame the girls that didn't want us to have sex with him. That's a valid response to not being able to get laid when you're a teen.
Yeah.
Sorry, that really pisses me off, that mentality. It's like...
as it should.
Let's not do bad things because girls don't want to be with you.
Right.
On May the 8th, he was found guilty on 6 counts of first-degree murder. A judge determined that he was not legally insane and he was sentenced to die in the gas chamber. It only took 1 hour to declare him as sane and 4 hours to give the sentence of death. So I think that's pretty quick.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So our justice system isn't always the best, and I think they got it right, and they got it right pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah.
it could have even
really,
taken
that's a no-brainer.
4 hours is actually a long time. They probably should have. It took 4 minutes maybe, and
they were like, "We'll just wait a little while."
Yeah.
So, as far as him being in prison, his reputation preceded him, and his inmates were quite fearful of him. Yeah, I would be too. Although he was pretty wiry, I think some people are pretty strong, even though they don't look it. Prison staff reported that inmates tried to convince Chase to unalive himself, as they were too scared to. It immediately made me think of Miggs, multiple Miggs in Silence of the Lambs, with how Dr. Lecter talks him into doing that. Don't know why. Well, I know why it made me think of it, but anyway. He had some interviews done by a gentleman named Robert Ressler, and he asked Ressler for a radar gun, and he hoarded mac and cheese in prison and gave it to Ressler, claiming that prison officials had poisoned it on behalf of Nazis. That's a usual modus operandi for Nazis, right? To poison mac and cheese.
Of course. Yeah.
On the 26th of December, so Boxing Day. Do you guys have Boxing Day?
I think we do. I just don't. I don't know too much about it, but I'm pretty sure we do have Boxing Day.
It's more an English thing in Australia. I think it's when usually you open your presents, I think, on Boxing Day, but not
See, maybe that's why. Maybe it's because all my English and Australian friends that I know
we talk about
Boxing Day.
I mean, I think traditionally it's an opening presents day, but really what we tend to do is have barbecues and listen to music and have some drinks and yummy food. Or recover from Christmas Day, one of the two. On the 26th of December 1980, he was found in bed having overdosed on antidepressants that he had been saving up for several weeks. So the drug that he was on is Sinequin, the cause of death was listed as toxic ingestion. Symptoms of overdose are cardiac issues, severe hypertension, convulsions, and nervous system depression, including coma. So it wouldn't have been a particularly pleasant way to go, but better
than what he deserved.
Yeah, better than what he deserved. Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to get at. So this case is actually used by the FBI in training as a model for understanding the disorganized killer. And some of the sources that are interesting here to look at is The Dracula Killer by Lieutenant Ray Biondi and Walt Heckox. Whoever Fights Monsters by Robert Ressler, who's the person that did the interviews.
Yep.
And Alone with the Devil, Famous Cases of a Courtroom Psychiatrist by Ronald Markman and Dominic Bosco. So, there's a lot out there. I think there's quite a few podcast episodes as well that you can sort of listen to, but obviously listen to ours first. But,
this is the one you need.
It's a very awful, awful case, and I do think it's an important one, like I said, that to discuss and for people to, have that reminder that, people can really fall through the cracks and that we need to keep an eye on people, especially if we know they've got mental health issues, and try and intervene before anything bad happens.
Not that any true crime case is good or less
they're all
damaging or less brutal, but a lot of the times we don't hear about these type of cases because they are so brutal and so strange and so out there. Like some of these killers, like the shoebox killer or Richard Chase, it's just so bizarre and so over the top that a lot of the public can't handle it.
Yeah, I was surprised the detail I was able to find. Yeah, and like I said, I'm used to kind of switching off from this sort of stuff, but I really, I took a few breaks when I was doing the research. Then I thought, I'm just going to plow through it and get it done, and it's finished and kind of ready to go. I mean, I was fine, but I think because this one has kind of everything. It's got all the ingredients. Usually we're dealing with 1, 2, maybe 3 of those things, but
it's got cannibalism, it's got sexual assault.
Yeah,
it's got
children,
the killing of children, and and then you add the drinking blood is just and of course the animals. It's just a really brutal case, and this guy was clearly very, very sick, but also, like you said, I believe he was very, very evil.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad he's gone. It takes a while. Death row over there can take decades, can't it? So
Oh
he
yeah.
could possibly, I mean, I don't think he'd still be alive if he hadn't done that, but
Well, just like the West Memphis Three, that guy was on death row for like 23 years, and
and thank
thankfully,
goodness
yeah, that he got
that,
got some
oh, not thank
justice.
goodness that he was, but like thank goodness that they didn't, do the, yeah, because
Yeah,
that,
because I mean, as much as there's probably a lot of really bad and evil people in death row, unfortunately, with the judicial system, a lot of people
mm,
slip through the cracks, or the cops aren't as good as in this case, and they're
yeah,
just looking to put the blame on anybody they can, and they're lazy.
absolutely. And now with DNA testing and a lot of advances in science too, hopefully more and more people that shouldn't be there
And corruption,
can,
like again with the
mm,
West Memphis Three, the judges knew there was evidence, new evidence. They wouldn't see it. They didn't want to they had dirt on their face, and they didn't want
mm-hmm.
to admit that. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, you've got to really hope for the best if you find like the in the name of the father, is it the Coglins?
Good lord.
Conlins, the Conlin family. When that amazing lawyer, I can't remember her name, but God, she was good, and she uncovered that evidence purely by a chance. And they tried really hard in the court to get it thrown out, and she just persevered, and they got they got freed. But spoilers for In the Name of the Father. It's actually a true life case, though. So I guess, if you
It's
don't
been
know
so
that,
long since I've seen In the Name of the
well,
Father, but I remember it being really good.
such a good movie. And it's another really important story about how people can get wrongly accused and how much power people can have.
Yeah.
And they just wanted a scapegoat. So,
Yep.
yeah. No, I'm really glad we covered this one. I actually really didn't know. I'd heard the name Richard Chase, but I'd never knew anything about him, really. It was one of the blind spots that I have. So, good call to do this one.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And of course, obviously, we don't have Nate with us. Nate, we miss
No,
you. We'll
I've
have
got
him
my
back
Walking
for
Dead,
Des.
my tea's in a
Nice.
Walking Dead cup in
Yeah.
honor of Nate
Yeah.
today. So yeah, we miss you, Nate. We'll see you soon.
I bought his kid a Ween shirt, and his kid
Uh-huh.
refuses to take it off, and I just
Oh,
absolutely love that.
that's really
Nate's
sweet.
family's awesome. Nate's kids are awesome. So, Nate,
I'm
we
not
miss you. We know
surprised.
you're working on The Walking Dead. You got important stuff to do. We're
Mm-hmm.
keeping the seat warm for you when we do Des, and of course, Maura Mooney. Was that the missing person
Yes,
case?
yes. And I
Yep,
was saying to Justin, maybe our next pizza party, he might join us. And
that would be amazing.
yeah,
Even with Nate there, will be great.
mm,
Justin will be great for the Entertainment Tonight edition, which I think went really well. That will
yeah,
be
it
out
was
by
fun.
now. But and
Yeah.
Jamie, one of our Patreon members, wants to hear the Black Dahlia.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all about that as well too. It's pretty funny. All our Patreon requests have all been like pizza bones. So I was like, well, I'm like, you can pick another episode as well. It doesn't have to be true crime, but
Yeah,
we'll totally do that, man. You get two for the price of one. So shout out to
yeah.
Jamie and
Hey,
all the
Jamie.
awesome Patreon members. So thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know much about that Dahlia case. Only a little bit. I remember seeing pictures from it at the Museum of Death in LA. They had a big sort of section devoted to that, so that was
Yep.
horrible but interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I am interested in delving into that actually because I only know really sort of peripheral stuff about
Same.
it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I listened to Scott and Heather covered it on the You Run podcast, True Crime, and I think they did a
Oh,
good
okay.
job on it. And I know
Yeah.
last podcast on the left has covered it. I know it's a really popular case. It's
Hmm.
an old case, a very old
Yeah.
case, and those ones are tough to find information on. But I
Mm.
know it's out there. So
Yeah. We'll dig it up.
yeah, but so yeah, that's the story of Richard Chase, the horrible, horrible story of Richard Chase. So
Go watch some Disney, everyone.
yeah, and if you have friends, family suffering from mental health, check up on them because
Hmm.
you never know. It's always good to keep an eye out for people suffering. So
Yeah.
this stuff's avoidable.
Yeah. Well said.
We appreciate you listening, and again, Des will be coming soon. I know we teased it last time. We're going to be recording that probably around December 19th, around Christmas time, around Boxing time. Around then. So
Boxing time.
around
I
Boxing
love that.
Day, Boxing time.
Yeah, we yeah. We beat
But
the shit out of each other in our backyards over presents.
yeah,
Boxing Day.
and that's some true crime right there. So, but
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who listens. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. If you want to donate to the Patreon for just as low as $1, you can get shows just like this up to a week early. You know, we rep the You Run Podcast. You can find all our shows and all the other awesome shows at yourunpodcast.com. We have all sorts of exciting stuff coming, many sub-series on pop culture reflections with my boy Justin, with our boy Justin, and all sorts of fun stuff coming out. Like I said, we'll be back with Dez, we'll be back with Nate, and the whole crew will be here. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.